Hello, everyone out there in podcast world. Hope you're having a great day. You're listening to the Service Business Mastery Podcast. I'm your host, Tersh Blissett. Today we have Derek Stone on the show, and I'm super excited because this is kind of outside the realm of what we typically talk about. We talk about feeling sometimes, but sometimes, I mean, we're in the construction world, so it's kind of like a manly world, quote unquote. There's a lot of females here too, but it's that facade of you can't talk about your feelings. But today we're going to talk about how kind of holding a grudge could hold you back in a business, and that kind of emotion that's involved with that. And I'm super excited to welcome Derek to the show and talk a little bit about the book that you have, and learn a little bit more about you and your background. We talked a little bit off air, and we have a lot in common, and I'm super excited to share everything with our audience. So welcome to the show, Derek.
Man, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me, Tersh. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. So tell the audience and everybody a little bit about you, your background, and a little bit about your book.
Sure, man. I grew up in Mobile, Alabama in Section 8 project housing off of Dauphin Island Parkway. And then going into 11th grade, my mom moved us to the middle of nowhere, Mississippi. So I was there. We were making fun of my accent earlier. So I call it a country hood because I was raised in the hood and then moved to the country. So I call that accent country hood a little bit. And that's trademark, by the way. No, I'm just kidding. So we did that. And then we felt the need to move to Nashville. You guys can't see, but there's a guitar behind me. I was a musician for about 16 years, touring all over the place, just chasing after that dream. And then one day I just walked outside of my house and was like, man, there's got to be a better way to provide for my family. And got into the construction world. And 3 years later, I started hiring my first person. And it's just been amazing ever since. I've grown my business to about $1.2 million. We do punch work for tract home builders. And I'm also a licensed general contractor in Nashville, Tennessee. So, it was a great fall forward plan, figuring it out as you go. And I've been married to my wife for 17 years, high school sweethearts kind of thing. And I have two handsome boys, Ashton and Noah. So, yeah, that's kind of how things went for me.
Cool. That's really awesome. We have 4 kids, and it's been been kind of wild with the with schools closing down and all that other stuff. We've homeschooled before in the past, and it brought back memories of the homeschooling, and it's good, but at the same time, Julie and I both work from home. We work remote, and much like you, we dispatch remote, and all of our techs leave and go home, leave from home. So it's been kind of a challenge, but it's really been pretty cool to be able to spend more time with the little ones. But how has tell me a little bit about first the book, and then a little bit about why you wrote it, and kind of that experience that you went through, just deciding to go down that road.
Well, one of the things, the book is called Why Should I Forgive? And when my business did over $1 million, I was so grateful. I mean, just unbelievably grateful. You guys, you just don't realize what I came out of. I mean, I even started the business on unemployment, which is hilarious. But it was just, literally trying to figure out a better way. And then when I did over $1 million in revenue, I was so grateful that I wanted to look back at my life to see what it was that triggered my journey to success. Because, people say, don't look back, right. Whatever. But to me, I want to look back to see what got me here. And really it was 2 decisions. One was I was a bitter, angry kid, because I was sexually abused by my stepdad from 8 to 12. And then from there, I blamed my body and my heart, my mind was just looking for somebody to blame.
Yeah.
And that person ended up being, which was hilarious, it wasn't my mom. My mom worked really hard, worked 3 jobs to keep the lights on, but I ended up blaming my dad because I just felt like it was his place to protect us from that stuff, and he just wasn't there. And which he was trying to figure out his own situation, and so that was one of the situations. Just kind of growing up, I'd blame my dad for all this stuff, and I went to this conference, and the speaker said, his name is Dave Park, and it was called the Stomping Out the Darkness Conference, and in this conference, they said, some of you need to forgive. They talked about bitterness versus forgiveness. And he says, some of you need to forgive a parent or a sibling or a grandparent. And this, you're gonna think I'm weird, but this voice came to me, man, and
No,
said,
no, I get it. Totally. Been there,
so
been
so
there.
so this voice came to me and says, Derek, I want to use you, but I can't because you have this bitterness towards your dad. And I said, as all those memories started coming back to my head and playing like a high speed time lapse video, and my blood pressure started to elevate, my fist kind of balled up, and
Mm.
I said, why should I forgive him? And that's where the title of the book came, because it came from a place of anger and resentment, right, and discontent. And so, and then all those things came to my heart, and I said, and then, as if I didn't just holler at that voice came back and said, but I'm the father to the fatherless. And
Yeah.
I wanted to know what that was like so bad, for somebody to tell me that I had what it took, that I
Hmm.
was enough, to show me what it was like to be a God-fearing, honoring, honorable man. And I said, Lord, if you'll give me that, I'll give you this. And and sure enough, man, I 2 hours bawling on my knees, man. And what happened was, I no longer, because I'd lived behind this facade. I was a party looking for a place to happen.
Hmm.
And when I got up from that situation, from that event, I no longer felt the need to nurse and live behind that facade. And also, the second thing that happened was that I've been carrying around this burden for so many years. I just no longer felt the weight of it. Like, it just wasn't there. Like, I
Mm.
was free from it. And that is the initial thing that happened. And then later, 6 years later, matter of fact, from that day, I started praying that God would restore the relationship between me and my dad. And then 6 years later, he calls me up in the middle of the deer woods. My oldest son, Ashton, he's 14 now. He was about 11 months old, not walking yet. And he called me up and he's like, Derek, look, I don't want to be known as somebody who walked out on their kids, and I want to be in your life and in my grandkids' life. And will you forgive me for the way I've treated you guys for the past 10 years?
Mm.
And man, I'm probably the only sibling that had this reaction, but because I'd already dealt with it.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
said, Dad, I forgave you a long time ago, but I've been waiting for this day for a while.
yeah.
And just and then our relationship just kind of kicked off anew. It started new. And to this day, man, we've been on hunting trips, hunting excursions and
Wow.
waterfalls. I mean, just cool stuff,
Yeah.
just hanging out, building a relationship. And so 2 months after that event happened, I asked him. I asked for this. I've been trying to figure out this blessing thing, the father to son, like Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob kind of
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
And so I just asked him. I said, "Hey, man, would you give me this biblical fatherly blessing?" And he said, "Let me pray about it." And he just didn't know what to say. Let me
Yeah.
pray about it and see what I feel like God's telling me to say. And it's like, okay. Well, a month later, he called me back and he spoke over me Deuteronomy. I think it's 18, Deuteronomy 18 or 28. I can't remember exactly right now, but when it says, you'll be blessed in your fields, and in coming and going, you will be the lender, not the borrower. And just all this stuff he prayed over me, man. And I
Now
felt
this
like
is
I was
your
getting,
dad?
yeah, yeah. This is my
Okay.
my biological dad.
Yeah.
And so I felt like I was being knighted, dude. Like, I was given the keys to this crazy army. It was like, go freaking conquer the world.
Yeah.
And so when that happened, it's like, I mean, if I could describe it, all of a sudden, just all this, I mean, everything started lining up and happening.
Mm.
And we moved to Nashville, moved back to Nashville, and got settled, got an apartment, got moving, and then found a job, and then everything just started exploding from there with this construction business. So it was just really unique and really neat to see the events that unfolded. And so that was one of the things that I granted, when I looked back to see what triggered it, was those two things. Me forgiving my dad, and then him speaking the blessing over me.
Yeah.
And then and then um the hard work, right? And then after that, I got a hold of this book by Andy Andrews called The Seven Visions for Personal Success.
Yeah.
Seven Decisions for Personal Success.
Uh-huh.
That book, The Traveler's Gift, changed my world. And I went through his journal and I did each decision for 30 days. And that right there um, is just all that happened and just got me where I am, man.
So
Persistent.
how much of a how much dedication did it take in resilience to stay on top of the 30 days, those seven
Well, at that point, you make a decision. There's got to be a better way. So you got to make a decision. I got to change my thinking because something is what was happening. This is number 5 for me. This is my 5th business that I've had.
Okay.
And the other ones were kind of either get rich quick or trying to get rich quick or trying to
Yeah.
get loans to get money to invest or in equipment to where I could do it faster, better, more efficient, and just nothing ever worked out. Well, in this situation, I just said, well, that's the poverty mindset, right? That poverty
Uh-huh.
mindset, get rich quick, get rich quick. Well, that's just there's no get rich quick. You
Right.
got to go in and do the work, and you got to be patient and do the time. So I was just like, I've got to change my thinking. So the first decision was the buck stops here, which is
Yeah.
taking responsibility for your life. And when you take responsibility for your life no longer becomes an excuse; it becomes a statement. And that's what I really pushed me ahead. Was like, all right, I've got to do this different. So let's do this. So yeah, the buck stops
Do
here.
you do you feel like using that thought process, do you have to be at rock bottom for, for it to be that influential?
This is the thing. Humans will not change unless they're challenged.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. Like if anything's, even if it's not great, if it's Cadillacing along, we'll
Hmm.
just keep going with the flow.
Absolutely, absolutely. Until you're challenged, man. Whether it's a girl or $1 million or let me change your life, situation. Humans do not react unless they're challenged. And for me, the challenge is that I'm staring at unemployment. I'm living with 2 single guys. Nothing against those single guys. I love them to this day. But I had my wife and my 3-year-old living with 2 single guys, and I was walking on eggshells, man. Something had to change.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And that was my challenge. Was like, I've got to change the situation. And when I got a hold of that book, I just dug face first in it and didn't put it down until I was done with it in 6 months. And every one of those decisions come from my head to my heart, and now I live them out every day. You know, but I would say that no, you don't have to be at rock bottom, but yes, you do have to get to a point in your life where maybe there's no other option, or um, you want a different result in your life.
Yeah.
And to get a different result, you have to change your thoughts, feelings, and actions.
Yeah. You
So,
can't, the definition of insanity is the same, doing the same thing over and
absolutely.
over again, hoping for a
Hmm.
different
A
result.
different result. Yep.
So
Absolutely.
I agree with that 100%. But, um, how long ago was it that all this took place in your life?
I was 19 when I chose to forgive my dad, and 6 years after that, so in my mid 20s,
Okay.
when he did the blessing over me, and then I started this business shortly after that. Really, in my 27, 28 ish. Yeah, so I'm 37 now. We've been in business for 10 years in September.
Oh, cool.
So yeah.
So, and what was the name of the book again?
So why should I forgive?
Why Should I Forgive?
Hmm.
And then the book that you read.
Oh, I'm sorry. The book that I read, my book is Why Should I Forgive? The book that I read was
Thank you.
Traveler's Gift, The Traveler's Gift by Andy Andrews.
Okay.
Yep.
Cool. And so let's dive a little bit into your book and how it, just about it in general.
Sure. So there's like 5 things that I really pointed out because Why Should I Forgive comes from a place of discontent and anger, and I wanted to answer the next question because most people ask that next question and nobody gives them the answer. And the next question is about how can I? And that's what I wanted to walk people through based on my journey. So I have no PhD in psychology, no masters, no nothing. This is 100% experience. And so basically, step one is just wanting and needing a better life. You're taking the want to a need. A want is a desire to obtain or possess. A
Hmm.
need is I got to have it to survive. I cannot live or breathe. That's like oxygen. I got to have it to survive. Is a need. So and then defining what that looks like for you, and that kind of thing, so you can move forward with that. Because when you can define where you want to go, who you want to be, and what you want to do, then you can use those as a filter to make all your decisions, right? And um, so outlining that, and then the second thing is going with your gut. And sometimes I use an example of being a musician. And the first time we ever played, we ended up playing a live show in front of 800 people at a talent show,
Oh, wow.
and it was absolutely absurd. And that's when my musical addiction began. But it was. it was there. People up to the moment we got on stage to perform, they were telling us, dude, don't do this. You're not ready. I'd only been playing guitar 9 months, me and my buddy Joe. We'd only been playing guitar for like 9 months or so. And they were like, you're not ready yet. Don't embarrass yourself,
Don't embarrass yourself.
Yeah, dude, I'm serious, man. They were just, I was like, dude, have you ever heard me play? They were like, no. So I was like, how do you know this,
Right.
So we got up there and killed it musically. I repeated the first verse and the second verse, which is hilarious. But people were so loud, dude. The freshman bleachers, I saw 3 people fall over, and turns out later they broke the bleachers. It was so crunk in there, it was crazy. It was hilarious. But it was just nuts. But so going with your gut, because I had to make a decision, right? Was that I could listen to those people say, dude, don't do this. You're going to embarrass yourself. Don't take the risk. Right. But I said, if I ever want to do this in life, if I ever want to do anything in life, I've got to be able to go against what people are telling me not to do, to take the risk. Right. And so sometimes going with your gut too is really just defining, if you're going through this journey and you like, say you hear this podcast and all of a sudden somebody's name comes to your head. Obviously there's something there.
Right. Yeah.
Your gut is telling you, hey, you need to forgive this person, or maybe you need to ask for forgiveness for something you did to them. That's going with your gut. And sometimes too, thirdly, it's kind of cleansing your surroundings. Who in your life is really supporting you?
Yeah.
Keeping those people around, and then finding the people who are just tearing you down and not helping you at all, and just want to be bitter, angry, and resentful towards you. You got to get those people out of your life, or set a boundary where they can only, you're limiting their time in your life. And so that's kind of going with your gut in a nutshell. The third thing is open heart surgery. And I refer to it as open heart surgery because it's really, we deal with a bunch of inner stuff. So one is how to make an informed decision. Some people have never been trained on how to make a decision. And I teach that in my business because a lot of the people we hire, sometimes they just can't gravitate to the right decision.
Oh yeah.
So we give them a step-by-step process of how to make an informed decision. The second thing is taking responsibility for your own life. Again, I kind of use that, where it's not letting your life be an excuse, but being a statement. And then dealing with the self-critic, because so many times we beat ourselves up. Ourself is our worst critic. We beat ourselves up. Man, I shoulda, coulda, woulda, right? And dealing with that. And then the cost of bitterness, and then the waiting room. Being in the waiting room sucks. And man, when you're sitting there and you're just waiting for a breakthrough, or say you're working so hard and so diligent about something, and you're just waiting for that thing to happen, right? And sometimes you either have to put more juice behind it, or you have to slow down a little bit to really, get the momentum you need. The waiting room just sucks. And so I talk about that. Sometimes it's just doing the next thing. Think of what it is that is going to move, the one thing that's going to move everything forward, biggest way, and do that one thing, And so yeah, that's kind of open heart surgery.
We were in small groups last week or a couple weeks ago, and we had talked about the waiting process and the waiting room, and just in general, and just in life in general, as far as like you got some bad news, and next thing you have to do is wait to hear, if the good news is going to come along, or someone has cancer, and they think that you're waiting for test results to see if it's cleared up or if it's still there, and sometimes that waiting process can be a good process too, if you're very diligent about it and intentional about what you're doing, and don't just, it's easy to fall into a slum, but as long as you don't fall into that slum while you're in that waiting room area.
It's hard because the world tells you, go after it, go get it, go attack it. And then, but God sometimes tells you, just wait. I'm trying to show you something. I would encourage too, if you've ever been in a situation where you've come back to a situation that you've not dealt with before, and somehow life keeps bringing you back to it, figure out, I have to pray, Lord, why do I keep coming back to this decision? What is the lesson that I have not learned yet? You know what I'm saying? Like, what is the lesson? And that's the truth of it, is sometimes you've got to just get with yourself and like, what is the lesson that I have not learned? I've faced this situation 3 times. Obviously I'm not learned the lesson yet. So, so that's kind of where, the waiting room, it really does.
One thing I will warn anybody that's listening, and just friendly advice is, be careful praying for patience, because that happened, and then we had 2 more kids. So
I'm with you. I used to be you know, we'd be a musician and we'd be touring all over the place, and we'd always I'd never let anybody pray for humility,
Yeah.
because the moment a string would break, or you know, your voice would crack, or you'd go flat, or you know, something would break, you know, I was like, never pray for humility, dude. Don't do it. So not
Yeah.
that you need to be prideful or anything, but I'm just saying, in that situation, every time somebody, Lord keep us humble, something would happen.
Oh
don't
yeah.
don't say that, you know. But yeah, but no, it was good times. But so then we kind of move on to the fourth thing, is surrendering the outcome. In surrendering the outcome, I always kind of take a look back and take some perspective from somebody else's point of view, because at the end of the day, you got to realize too, people are making decisions based on what they think is best for them.
Yeah. That's very true.
You may think that, oh, they're attacking me, they're out to get me, you know, whatever, or they're going to leave me hanging. I've invested so much into this person or whatever, especially in business, y'all. Don't tell me
Oh
you
yes.
hadn't done that before. You know what I'm
Oh
saying?
yeah.
So it's like, dadgum, you know, I've invested so much time in this person. They're going to go out and do their own thing. Or, man,
Mm-hmm.
I've had a guy take 4 people with him.
Mm.
Man, I mean, you're talking about, oh, you know, you just want to, and you have to just be like, dude, at the end of the day, they just reached the end of the financial situation that you could help them with.
Yeah.
Now, that who am I to tell them that they can't go provide for their family in a better way? I'm not going to be
Yeah.
that. I'm not going to be that guy.
Right.
So that's with me, is that sometimes we have to take a different perspective and see, man, they made that decision based on they didn't make that decision to hurt me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if it hurts, obviously, yes, it does, but they didn't maliciously do that.
Right.
And then if they did maliciously do that, what did you do to them first? You know, you got to cause them to do that as revenge.
Right.
So then you got to look at that. So surrendering the outcome, though, is using. I use the story of Jehoshaphat and how um, he was using it with Israel, and he was talking about. Um, he said, Lord, Jerusalem is yours. You gave us this land. Shouldn't it be yours to protect? And he, you know, and God was like, absolutely. He says, but you still have to go show up. So he made him march out there to the valley, and all 3 of those other armies just killed each other, dude. I mean, all the way down to the last man.
Yeah.
And the thing is that you still have to go show up, right? But surrendering the outcome, to me, is releasing revenge. So when you have that anger and that bitterness and that resentment built up, you want to go get revenge, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you turn it over to a higher power, I turn it over to God. Look, God, I know you're going to work this out. You know their situation, I don't. But at the end of the day, I know that you're going to fight this battle for me because you say you will. And what that does is it releases you to have peace.
Mm-hmm.
It clears your mind and your heart, and it gives you faith to move forward through
Yeah.
adversity. And so that's kind of one. And then the last thing is gratitude. Just, you can't be a happy, grateful person with bitterness, anger, and resentment. It's just impossible. And to me, happiness and joy, I mean, happiness and gratefulness are 2 sides of the same sword,
Mm-hmm.
of joy. If you're not getting joy in your life, look in your heart first. You know, who am I holding resentment and anger and, you know, bitterness towards? And then, you know, maybe it's even you
Yeah. Yeah.
that
Yeah.
I
Like,
regret. Maybe it's you. You're holding resentment towards yourself. I should have made this decision better. I hurt this person, man, and I wish I could make it right. And you know what I'm saying? I mean, maybe it's you. At
oh
the end of the
yeah.
day, you have to look yourself in the mirror and say, you know what? I forgive you. I made those decisions in the past, yes, but that's not who I am, and that's not who I want to be. This is who I want to be, and I'm going to make this decision to move forward in this. And then at the end of the day, you make those attempts to repair those relationships. Know that you run the risk of them not reciprocating.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes you're going to find out that that person didn't even think twice about it. You're beating
Right.
yourself up about it. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? You're beating yourself up about it, and like, dude, whatever, man. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Like you're holding this big thing, you know, like this resentment or this regret, and you confront this person about it and just say, hey, man, look, I felt like I did this to you, man. I'm sorry. And it's like, dude, whatever, dude. You know,
Yeah.
we're human. You know, and that's not always going to happen. I mean, some people have done some
True.
damaging things out there, but I think that, um, you know, when you forgive yourself, you can't love other people without loving yourself. And when you forgive yourself, it allows you to forgive others as well. And so yeah, gratitude. And then the last chapter is what forgiveness looks like in a marriage, and that's probably the meatiest chapter because it was in a relationship, my relationship, heading for divorce 4 years ago, and
Wow.
I just chose to pick up my sword and shield and fight for my marriage, and I'm all the better for it. I think, you know, defining what a marriage looks like, you know, and forgiveness looks like in a marriage was a big thing. When we went into counseling, man, they did a family of origin. So how you were raised and how you react the way you do,
Uh-huh.
which was mind blowing and so eye opening for my spouse to see, and for me to see it about my spouse.
Yeah.
You know, one of the things I couldn't stand about my wife is like, I felt like she always tried to treat me like a kid. And I'm like, I'm a grown dude, you know what I'm saying? Like get off me. And so, you know, but her dad died when she was in ninth grade of cancer, and she had to become a mom to four other siblings in the house,
Mm.
doing their homework, showing, getting food for them,
That's how
clothing
she
them.
showed her love.
Yeah, exactly. And so where I'm sitting here mad about it, this is her, and so yeah, so that, it's eye opening when you see the family of origin, and then they take you through your spouse is not your enemy. And really, when you have those conversations, you're heated, you have to tell yourself that, my spouse is not the enemy.
Yeah.
And then sometimes I will greet a conversation nowadays, if it has to be a confrontational, I call them discussions with purpose, right? So you just say, look, I don't want to upset you or hurt your feelings or anything, but there's something that's just been bothering me, and I want to tell you about it. But can we talk about it? And at that point, you're disarming the fact that, hey, I don't want to offend you. I'm coming to you in love.
Yeah.
And then you can turn around and say, oh, well, this is the one thing, like I feel like you talk to me this way and I don't appreciate it. You could, whatever that is.
Yeah. Totally.
And then the real big part of it is John and Stacey Eldridge's book. John Eldridge's book, Wild at Heart, and then Stacey Eldridge's book, which John co-wrote, I think, with her, is captivating. Man, those two books, they go over the three desires that men and women have.
Yeah.
The three desires for men is they want to go on a great adventure, they want to have a battle to fight, and they want a beauty to rescue.
Yeah.
Those three things. And then what's crazy is that the women have the opposite of those things. They want to play, and this is what I did so bad in my relationship with my wife, is that I took her role away, is that they want an irreplaceable role on a great adventure, whether that's starting a business, starting a family. That's a great adventure for them. They want an irreplaceable role in that. And so many times, me as a musician, man, I took that role away from her,
Yeah.
and was wondering why she was, depressed or angry towards me, and so, check yourself. And that's
Right.
a role. That's a role for our wives, man, is that they want an irreplaceable role in a great adventure. The second thing is that they want to show the world what beauty looks like to them, how they dress, how they fix their hair, how they dye their hair, how they
Yeah.
paint their house, how they design their house, how they arrange their furniture, what flowers they put in the front yard. That's them showing the world what beauty looks like to them. And then the third thing is that she wants to be pursued or romanced. Is a big deal, man. When we get married, so many times we just forget about that whole part.
Oh yeah.
I don't know why. We
Yeah.
just do.
Guilty.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? I mean, so when you look at those when you put all that stuff together, man, and then John Gottman's book, he talks about in 7 Principles, I think, to make marriage work. He talks about the 4 horsemen, which is
Yep.
criticism, defensiveness, contempt, and stonewalling. The 4 horsemen are like the apocalypse for your marriage, right? If that's happening, you need to go get some help.
Yeah.
And to me, I want to give you a little piece of advice that worked really wonders for us. So many people, when they go get counseling, they find somebody they know.
Yeah.
And to me, that is it
Bad.
may work out, but you got to have somebody that has no skin in the game.
Yep.
And a third person that doesn't know either one of you,
Yep.
that could come in and unbiasedly listen to both sides of the story and tell you their professional opinion,
Yep.
or even their spiritual opinion of what you're dealing with. I mean, our counselor looked at us after the 2 hours. She said, "You guys have been through 9 out of the 10 things that cause divorce. The only thing that you hadn't been through is adultery." You know what I'm saying? And I was like, yes,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? Like, so,
Right.
so it was just like 9 out of the 10 things. I'm sitting here thinking, dude, no wonder we're sitting here in this office.
Yeah.
And so, but there's hope. I'm
Yep.
sitting here 4 years on the other side of it,
Yeah.
and living the best relationship I've ever had with her.
It's crazy. It's crazy. I mean, circling back to, just having, repairing those relationships and how that affects both personal and business life, just in general, and the amount of stress that is reduced in your personal life, and you can concentrate on some business things whenever you're not focused on that, whether it's your internal demon or just constantly saying you haven't forgiven this person, or you need to forgive yourself, or whatever the case may be.
Hmm. Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think that's a big thing. Because right, we only have the much capacity in
Yeah.
our brain and in our heart. Excuse me. We only have so much capacity, and when we're filling it up with all this junk, right?
Hmm.
You can't function. There was a time 2 months ago where my wife was like, "You're not finishing your sentences. You're like your brain is going so fast.
Yeah.
You're not finishing your thought. People are wandering around. Stuff's getting messed up." And I'm like, "Oh my gosh." So at the end of the day, I started doing these brain dump things, where I would write everything that's in my head down.
Yeah.
And what that does is getting it down, I could go look at it in the morning and read back through the things, so I know exactly where I picked up. I can pick up where I left off at the end of the day. And
Hmm.
what that does is it allows my brain to just clear itself and then focus on my family when I'm at home.
Yeah, I
And
love it.
so that's a big deal. Your brain only has so much capacity, and that's what forgiveness is such a tool for me. Is I mean, I just don't have the time
Hmm.
to nurse a wound like that.
Yeah,
You know
absolutely.
what I'm saying? I just don't have the time. I use it, and there's a situation where I invested $12,000 into a. We were going into another state, and we were trying to expand into at least try to get our first franchise as our company.
Mm.
And I invested $12,000. Had 3 conversations with the guy. I was like, "Hey, I just want to make sure you're going to do this and not bail on me when the going gets tough, because the going is going to get tough. I'm telling you, I've started this business. The going is
Yeah.
going to get tough,
Hmm.
and when the tough gets going, I just want to make sure you're not going to bail." Well, the tough got going, and he bailed.
Yep.
And I was going to fly out to do the marketing, and when I told him I was flying out, he resigned.
Oh wow.
And just angry, infuriated, you know what I'm saying? Just
Hmm.
mad. And I'm beating myself up because I just knew in my heart that I shouldn't have made the decision to do that, but I did anyway. But anyway, long story short is that I went to bed that night saying, "I can't go to bed like this. I can't go to bed like this. I got to forgive this dude." And at the end of the day, you look at the other perspective. He made the decision based on what he needed to do for his family. You know what I'm saying?
True.
So
Yeah.
I can't hold that against him. So at the end of the day, I did. And the next day I woke up, I didn't feel like I forgave the dude. I was still just as mad as I was the day before. I kept telling myself, "I forgave this dude. I forgave this dude." The next day, I started to feel a little bit of relief. But day 4 or 5, it was gone. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? So sometimes I just want to emphasize to people, when you say you forgive somebody, it doesn't mean the feelings go away, right?
Right.
At
That's
the end of the
true.
day, you got to keep on going. It's
Yeah.
just like working that muscle. It's like, all right, I forgive this person. I forgave him. I'm not mad at him. I forgive him. And then day 4 or 5, whatever, you don't feel those feelings anymore. And then you can have a conversation with them,
Yeah.
and that's the power of it, is that it helps you alleviate that anger, and you're dealing with it. So that's kind of what happened to me, and that's how I still use forgiveness to this day. Is I'm not going to hold bitterness and resentment towards this person, and that kind of thing, because they did what they could for their family, what they had to do.
I love it.
So
That's really cool.
yeah.
The name of your book again?
Why Should I Forgive?
Why Should I Forgive? Cool. And where can we get it from?
You can get it on Amazon, or you can go to DerekStone.online to check it out there, and just click on the book link, and it'll pop up that Amazon link. So, but yeah, if you get it, give me a review. I'd love that. There's only one on Amazon, which is a really good review, by the way. But yeah, hook a brother up. That'd be great.
And if they want to learn more about you and what you have going on in the future, stay connected, what's the best way?
Yeah, they can go to DerekStone.online, or they can go to StonesRepairandRemodel.com. It talks about my business and everything, and kind of a bio on our business, and what we do for track home builders. So yeah.
Cool, man. I appreciate you coming on the show.
Man, thank you so much for having me. It's been great.
Yeah, and thank you everybody that's listening or watching this, however it may be that you're consuming this content. Until next week, I hope you have a great day, and thank you again for listening to the Service Business Mastery Podcast, the podcast focused on service business owners, managers, and technicians who are considering becoming business owners themselves. Have a wonderful week.